Good morning, everyone. We're back for another episode of the Golden V podcast, streamed live to our YouTube channel on Thursday, February the 20th at precisely 11:02 in the morning with our friend of the show, Brett Mydske, captain of the Vancouver Warriors, doing a little game preview for us ahead of tomorrow night's game in Vancouver at Rogers Arena against the Saskatchewan Rush. Brett, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So let's just get right into this because you and I are just chatting a little bit off the air. This team, meaning the Saskatchewan Rush, played 10 games in the NLL season, like you guys, sitting at 8-2, and looks like a 4-game win streak for this team as well. They've got a lot of activity on Twitter this morning. The Rush just saying they're coming to the West Coast looking for 5. This has to be, I would say, probably your guys' toughest test of the season, especially at home.
For sure. I mean, you look at their record. I think in the standings, I think they're first in the league right now. They've got a pretty complete team. They've got a great goaltender with Frankie. Their offense is scoring by committee, and I mean, they're putting up a lot of goals right now. You look what they did last weekend in the doubleheader, and then their defense is fast, young, and they push in transition. So they've got a complete team over there.
Yeah, I was noticing that because I was just looking at some stuff in a couple of the local papers this morning. They moved to 8-2 on the season, meaning the Rush have for the first time they're 8-2 since 2018, the year they last won the NLL Cup. And obviously that was an interesting schedule last weekend too, because a lot of teams had those back-to-back games like you guys did earlier in the season, right? When you played that Friday in Ottawa, lost to the Black Bears, and the Sunday or then it became the Monday in Philadelphia against the Wings, lost that one. We're not focusing on those losses, but a lot of those back-to-back games and the Rush, beat Calgary 16-13, beat the Rochester Nighthawks 17-9. But let's focus a little bit on this one too, because you guys come in on really what I thought was a rebound win for you guys last week in Las Vegas. Beating the Desert Dogs 12-8. And it looked to me, and I wanted your thoughts on it, looked to me like you guys returned to that style of play that you were playing when you had success earlier in the season before the back-to-back losses.
Yeah, it was a good game for a team. I mean, Walshy played great. The defense held it down, and the offense just kept chipping away. We're not a team that really goes on 5, 6 goal runs or anything like that, but
right.
We try to get a goal every 5 minutes if we can. And just keep chipping away. I mean, Kurt's done a great job of not thinking about the end result. He talks a lot about playing 5-minute games, right? So win each 5 minute, and if you don't get that one, win the next one.
Yeah, and I really like that philosophy. I've learned so much about Kurt this year. Obviously, doing more in-depth podcasts with you guys, and it's always great to have you as a guest. And just having to listen to Kurt a lot from Brad Challoner's coaches calls. I want to give Brad a quick shout out, but just understanding his philosophy. And that's a philosophy that I think anybody could use in life, right? It's like, don't focus on the standings. Don't focus on the scoreboard. Don't focus on what's happening in terms of the playoffs, which are now 8 games away, but take those 5-minute chunks and just work them. And you guys, like you shut the Dogs out, and I watched the broadcast from late in the first till the beginning of the third. Right. And then they pushed back a little bit, but I was looking at some of the runs there where kind of going back and forth, they were up 2-0. What stood out for you in that game with those sort of runs? Because that's kind of an interesting thing I learned about lacrosse since I started watching a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, lacrosse is a lot like basketball. It's a game of runs, momentum. So obviously they got up too quick, and then we settled in, we chipped away, and then like you said, they didn't really go on a run until the third quarter. But I think if you look at that game, they scored a couple power play goals in the third quarter to kind of help them out on that run. And I think they brought it within 1 goal, and we kind of shut the door, and we went on a run of our own.
Yeah, because that was interesting, right? Because I was looking at Marcus Clarich. Great for him too. Second-year player scoring 4 goals in the 12-8 victory. What are you seeing from Marcus's game too? Because he's another one of these young guys that you guys drafted, and Kurt brought him in, and I just feel like there's still a lot of room for growth on this team, right? Because there's a lot of young guys, Marcus, Owen Grant, guys like that, right? That really, I don't know. I mean, you know better than I do, can really become complete lacrosse players, but it's still early in their time in the NLL.
Absolutely. I mean, he looked like a guy like Marcus. He got drafted to our team a couple of years ago. Troy was coaching when he got drafted. That was his
That's
rookie
right.
year.
Yeah,
So he actually had
that's right.
another year junior
Right.
when he was playing. He did a little bit of time on the practice roster. Got in one or two games last year. One or two games. It's tough as an offensive player because most teams only dress 6-0 guys. So I think he was 20 years old at the time when he got drafted and 21
Right.
coming in. It's hard to
Right.
get playing time, and he was a good sport about it. Kind of paid his dues and kind of absorbed all the knowledge from all the other offensive players. And now, I mean, you look at the way he plays, he can be a threat anytime he's on the floor. He's
Mm.
fast. He's super dynamic. He's got an inside shot. He's got an outside shot. He's got the ability to put defenders on ice skates anytime he's on the floor. So, and I mean, you look at his first game to his last game, he keeps getting better and better every game. So he's got a bright future.
Yeah, and like I said, he hasn't been, and you. That's why you're on the show because you have that knowledge that I don't have, and like I just see him, and I was looking at some stats from the game. I watched the game. I didn't have a lot of notes from it, but I was watching the runs going back and forth, and Walsh gets 34 shots in the victory. You guys are 5-5, and obviously Keegan had 9 points. So there's that. I thought Adam Charlambides kind of refound his form a little bit. I don't know if it's just the games against Calgary, the way Adam seems to make that move in the offensive zone. If Calgary had figured out how to shut him out, but there's going to be the same kind of defense there against Saskatchewan. But let's move into a little bit more about tomorrow night, because that's what's really important here, right? How big of a statement game is this for you guys? 5-5, coming home, only the one loss at home, and against what I still think is the best team in the NLL at 8-2.
Yeah, it'd be huge. I mean, you look at the standings right now. I think from third place all the way to, correct me if I'm wrong, 11th place. I think there's separates by maybe 2 wins or something like that. So the standings are real tight right now. To be able to get a win at home against one of the top teams in the league would be huge for our confidence. And we've got a bye next weekend too. So getting a win going into the bye will be big for us.
Yeah, and then I was just looking at the schedule too. So let's just pull those standings up while we chat, because you got to buy next week. Then what's happening the following 2 weeks? You're in Buffalo
We're-
2 weeks from now,
No,
aren't you?
San Diego. San
Okay.
Diego. And they're
So
they're a good
yeah,
team
go ahead.
too. So we got two tough games in a row with San
Yeah,
Diego
but
and Saskatchewan.
I still think you guys can beat the Seals. I think that game early in the season, that was Keegan's sock trick game, right? They shut you
Yeah.
down for 3 quarters, like I said, and I want to revisit something about Walsh, because that game, it looked like Chris Origlieri had you guys pretty much figured out for the first 3 quarters. You break out in the fourth quarter, and Aiden, and I've said this to a few people, he got stronger as the game went on. It seemed like Origlieri kind of got worn down. And what was missing from those 2 games that you lost, as opposed to last week's game against Las Vegas, is Walsh was back to his old form in terms of, like, they'd get a shot on him or get a goal, and then he'd stop the next 3.
Yeah, he's a great goaltender at bouncing back after goals. He's super mentally focused, dialed in there, and he doesn't get easily rattled. So that helps out a lot, especially on the back end. When a
Mm.
team can go score a goal, maybe 2 goals, and you can just limit it to 1 or 2 goals instead of going on big 4, 5, 6 goal runs.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Right, because that's where you guys really got challenged in that Calgary game. I mean, you guys took the lead in that one, like the game in Las Vegas last week, where Las Vegas is up 2-0 on you guys, and then Calgary pushed back with about, I'm trying to remember if it's 5 or 6 goals against you guys. I was just looking at how well Calgary did last weekend, particularly Dane Doby. So I don't know if it's really a surprise, but yeah, I know that was a tough game for you guys at home.
Yeah, I mean they went on that. I think it was what 9-3 at one point.
It was 9-3. That's right.
kind of halfway through the second. We did a good job clawing back, getting it within one going into halftime. But every time I think we tied it up 2 times or maybe even 3 times in the second half. But every time we tied it up, we couldn't get the lead back. They kept answering.
Yeah. So there's the standings there. Obviously, Buffalo's still at 7-1 in first, but Buffalo losing their first game last week against San Diego. I have a good feeling about you guys playing San Diego too. Same record as us, 5-5, but you guys played a really effective game against them, and obviously you had that fourth quarter comeback win at home. So I don't really fear any of the games you guys have in the schedule. I mean, obviously Saskatchewan's a tougher team than San Diego, and obviously Las Vegas at 2-8 is struggling. Any other thoughts on tomorrow night's game?
No, I mean, like you said, they're the top team in the league. So if you want to be one of the best teams in the league, you got to beat the best. So everybody's looking forward to it and excited.
Yeah, I was just looking at this article too on the Warriors website here about leadership on defense and sort of the balanced attack, right? 703 loose balls, 72 block shots, and the game high performance of 16 blocks against Calgary. That was probably the best road game you played of the season in Calgary in December. And obviously the transition game too. Talk to me a little bit about that. Owen Grant leads the NLL with 10 goals and Reed is third with 5.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have those guys on the team. They're great athletes. They've got a engine that can keep going, and whenever they get up the floor, they've got a high percentage scoring chance. And if they don't shoot, then we're getting assists off the bench from running to the bench hard and getting the old guys out.
Yeah, it's an interesting mix for you guys. And the other thing that I noticed too is just looking at some notes here. Obviously, Keegan's leading the team with 55 points. Adam's doing well too with 46 points. Kevin Crowley with 31 points. And then we moved to Alex Stathakis too. I know you mentioned him at the beginning of the season to me, just because of what he represents for you guys in the faceoff circle at 62%.
Yeah, he's not a guy you're going to see out on defense all that often in a regular shift. But I mean, every team's got face-off guys now, and don't get me wrong, he's more than dependable on defense. But the way he's coming in to the NLL after never playing indoor and taking face-offs against the best players in the world, and what's his face-off percentage this year? Like 60-something% is pretty.
It says 62 here in the article, and I was trying to dig for some more stats because I was looking at NLL Stats Evolution by Ty Merrow, and Ty's got a really great breakdown. And he had an interesting thought about face-offs, right? Because he said sometimes, when you win or lose a face-off, it doesn't really matter. Just get the ball back and keep moving. But it seems like, at least for a lot of broadcasters and stats, face-offs have become a real focus. So
yeah, it helps limit the other team's runs. You kind of can control the flow of the game. Like nothing worse than a team scoring on you. You go take a face off, they win it, and they have the opportunity to score again. And then if you win the ball, you can kind of take care of the ball a little bit, slow it down, and kind of control the pace of play. So we're big. I know everybody on our team, and I think the majority of the league are kind of big fans of face-off and having good face-off guys on your team.
Yeah. All right, well, let's wrap it up there, Brett. Thanks for doing this as always. Thanks for being our regular contributor. Thanks for being a great guest. Just going to throw a few things out here. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Golden V Podcast, goldenvpodcast.ca, info at Golden V Podcast, and obviously our Buzzsprout page where all the episodes of our podcast are hosted, buzzsprout.com/1869778. We'll talk to everyone soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, take care, Brett.